Calaroga Shark Media.
Here's a crew for you. Hi, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. It's the Mark Twain Prize. Remember last year, Conan O'Brien and everybody showed up? Well, who's coming this year? Who's even getting it this year, John? Well, this year's winner is Bill Maher. And who's coming? Louis C.K., Jay Leno, and Stephen A. Smith, which sounds like the setup to a joke. That's right, Bill Maher will receive the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor at the Kennedy Center, Sunday, June 28th. It will be filmed for Netflix. And it's not just Louis C.K., Jay Leno, and Stephen A. Smith. Oh, no. You'll also get Whitney Cummings, Woody Harrelson, Ariana Huffington, and John Mellencamp. Previous winners include Richard Pryor, Jonathan Winters, Carl Reiner, Whoopi Goldberg, Bob Newhart, George Carlin, Bill Cosby. We don't like to talk about that. Tina Fey, Will Ferrell, Eddie Murphy, David Letterman, Kevin Hart, Conan O'Brien, even Jay Leno himself in 2014. I bet you can't wait. Well, you're going to have to wait 2 weeks. Meanwhile, listen to this from Zarna Garg. Are you ready for this? You're not. You know why she played the Riyadh Comedy Festival? No, it wasn't about the money. She was on the Breakdown podcast, and Zarna Garg said, I really went with the spirit of, I've been ordained to do this by somebody, some higher power. It is my job to spread the message and to let women know they could say what comes to their mind. That's slight freedom. If I can even inspire them to think in that direction, then I'm doing something positive for this world, which, of course, is why she donated all her proceeds to charity. Hold on, I'm being passed a note. Oh, she didn't? Oh, so it's, never mind. Sorry, I got distracted there, guys. Zarna said it was controversial here, as everything tends to be, because everybody thinks they know what Saudi Arabia is sitting in Brooklyn. But what they don't know is that my material goes all over the world. Because of the digital world we live in, my jokes, my comedy special, everything travels. You can't control where these things show up anymore. So women in that part of the world watch me in secret. The jokes that are open here, it's not so easy for them to watch it. They write me constantly. They're like, come to us. We want our daughters to see you, because they've never seen somebody that looks like me say these things. Garg said her children were dead against the trip, but she offered to go for message, not money. Zarna says, a lot of people think that the comics who did it for the money. Money's very important in life, but I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound a little braggy, but I'm going to be honest about it. The comics they invited make a lot of money in America. They didn't invite the comics who are struggling here, to be honest. You think? You think they didn't invite open micers? Sorry, Zarna said, we would have all made money. I could do 3 more shows in New Jersey and make the same money. Right, 3 shows. We all didn't go there to chase the money. I can't speak for others, but the money was not a motivator for me at all, which is why she donated it to... Oh, no, she didn't. I'm telling you, I went with the same sense that I owe these women something. Honestly, it's a very slight capitulation by the regimes that run those places that they, too, need a woman on the lineup. They didn't have to invite us. They could have ignored us. They could have just had 50 men. But even they are now understanding that is it really in your best interest to exclude half of your world? And even though there are plenty of problems there, there's no defending a lot of things that go on there or here, for that matter. But if they're opening that door even for the slightest ray of sunshine to pass through, is it not our job to help push it open even that little bit more? In October, The Hollywood Reporter shared that Jessica Kirson donated her fee from the Riyadh Comedy Festival to the Human Rights Campaign. Perhaps Zarna did too, and she just hasn't promoted it. Who knows? How about those Knicks, huh? Everybody's talking about the Knicks, including Jimmy Kimmel.
President Trump said he is planning to go to New York for the game. This would be the first time Trump has appeared at a court in New York since being convicted of 34 felonies. Trump is a fan of the Knicks, and we know he's a Knicks fan because a few days ago he posted this AI slop of himself in a Knicks jersey dunking on New York Governor Kathy Hochul. There he is, Larry Turd with 2 hands on the ball. The president wants to be there in person to support his hometown team and, if necessary, to overturn the results of the game. I just can't wait to hear him try to say the word Wembanyama. That's what I'm looking forward to. You'd think Trump would be rooting for the Spurs, right? It's what got him out of Vietnam.
Solid joke there. It's a big sports week for the president. Who's excited about the big UFC event on the White House lawn? I was in D.C. recently, and you got to see this thing. It looks like a mess. I'm sorry. It looks terrible. They do such a good job down there with the monuments and the whole National Mall area. But this thing on the lawn, mess, total mess. Adam Sandler's not going to go. Sandler was one of 7 celebrities that UFC CEO Dana White said he invited to the event on the White House South Lawn on Saturday. That list included Guy Ritchie, Tom Brady, Jared Leto, Jason Statham, The Rock, Mario Lopez, and of course Adam Sandler. What a list. Actually, wouldn't you watch that movie if it were on Netflix? If I told you there were a movie starring Sandler, The Rock, Jason Statham, you're already in, right? Now I'm going to throw on top for no reason Tom Brady, Mario Lopez, Jared Leto, and Guy Ritchie. Why are we not making this movie? It's like Ocean's 11, but like bad. Make that. I digress. A representative for Sandler told Vanity Fair that the star, best known for comedies including Billy Madison and The Wedding Singer, along with dramatic roles in films such as Uncut Gems and Jay Kelly. Wait, am I winning the war? Are people starting to refer to Adam Sandler dramatic actor? Because they just qualified him in Vanity Fair, naming 4 movies, and only 2 of them were horrible comedies. Maybe I'm winning the war of Adam Sandler. I digress again. The representative for Sandler told Vanity Fair that Mr. Sandler would not attend. No reason was given. The UFC event is scheduled for the president's 80th birthday this weekend. It is being promoted as part of the country's 250th anniversary celebration. If you're old like me, you remember in 1976, we had things like Operation Sail, and CBS ran bicentennial minutes, and everything was red, white, and blue all over the place, and there were like flags with 13 stars. None of that happening this time. Very, very disappointing. I remember 50 years ago as a kid being like, oh, I can't wait to the 250th because I really enjoyed this bicentennial. The 250th is going to be awesome, and it's just going to come and go. How disappointing. Send your letters to me, I guess. Star Trek ruiner Patton Oswalt has a new special out today. Tea and Scotch on YouTube. Good discussion with Patton and Vice. Vice asked Patton, in the liner notes for the George Carlin commemorative collection, you said that you thought Carlin entered the millennium with his eyes too wide open. Vice was curious what material you're referring to. Patton said, I was referring to a lot of the very painful self-reflective stuff that he puts himself through as far as the boomer generation. His generation failed. A lot of the peace, love, and understanding stances from the Summer of Love were so easily co-opted and marketed, and he owns it. And he shows how those failures led to a lot of the mess we were in when he was filming his material. I don't get directly into it in this special, but a lot of the ironic racism and homophobia that Gen X indulged in the late 90s, early aughts set the blueprint for the whole. It's just jokes dodge that actual racists and homophobes are using now, and we need to own that and find a way beyond that. Every generation does what it can, and every generation ultimately falls short. You got to own your failings and hold them up so the next generation starts from, okay, first off, let's not do that, which I think would apply to the next generation of Star Trek series. You would go back and you would watch Strange New Worlds and you would watch the Doug the Vulcan episode. You'd be like, yeah, we should not have done that. Let's never do that again. In fact, let's pay John Delancey a lot of money to show up as Q, snap his fingers, and wipe that out of existence and just say, that never happened, Picard. Humans take time so seriously, and then we just wipe the Doug the Vulcan. I digress again. Vice asked Star Trek ruiner Patton Oswalt, you stirred up a bit of controversy in 2014 when you admitted that you never found Lenny Bruce funny. Richard Lewis even wrote an op-ed in the New York Times responding to what you said. I don't remember any of that. That's fun. Have your thoughts changed about Lenny Bruce since then? Did you get to talk to Richard Lewis after that? Patton said, I spoke with Richard over text and voicemails, but he was also going through a lot of medical stuff, and we never got to get together. But it bothered me that people misunderstood what I was saying or simplified it into a soundbite or pull quote. Me not finding Lenny Bruce funny doesn't mean he wasn't funny. I was being honest about how his stuff was too out of context for me to really laugh at it. If I'm really being honest, I can appreciate his genius, acknowledge what he did, and be aware of the debt I owed him as an artist and performer, but his stuff never made me laugh, and that's me being honest, even if it makes me look bad. Which I think Lenny would have appreciated, maybe. Meanwhile, Spin caught up with the Star Trek ruiner Patton Oswalt. They asked him about his comedy heroes. He said, definitely people like Pryor and Carlin and Steve Martin and Albert Brooks, and then once I started doing comedy, it was just all my friends. I got to see Carlin live a couple times. I got to see Leno before I started, but once I started actually getting into clubs, I was hanging out with people like Dave Chappelle, Brian Posehn, Sarah Silverman, and David Cross, and those were the people that were really influencing my moment-to-moment development. The subject went to hecklers. Patton said people are so used to talking online and commenting on things and reacting to things that when someone's in front of them in real life, they want to comment on that in the moment. They think they're in a constant dialogue with people. Then there's also jealousy or boredom. There's nothing more frustrating than a heckler getting tossed out of a show going, oh, it's just trying to help the show. It's trying to make it funnier. I mean, everybody wants to be funny. Nobody wants to think that they're not funny. And they asked Star Trek ruiner Patton Oswalt about his appearance on Star Trek Strange New Worlds as Doug the Vulcan. Doug said, it was a blast getting to work with that crew and that cast, being on a set where it was a 360-degree practical set. I thought it'd be in front of green screens and stuff, but no, they actually built the hallways and the decks and the rooms and the chambers. It was just a fun world to get to play in. Were you a Star Trek fan as a kid? I can answer that from here. F no. There's no effing way. I almost dropped an actual F-bomb. I'm so upset about this. Patton said, I'm not deep into the lore because Star Wars kind of captured my brain when I was 8. Yeah, this guy that ruined Star Trek has a bit about he wants to kill George Lucas with a shovel for the stupid things in the Star Wars prequels. And then you go and you play Doug the Vulcan. Don't come to my neighborhood and drop a deuce on my lawn, dude. I'm not deep in the lore because Star Wars kind of captured my brain when I was 8. And Star Trek was a little bit ahead of my time. But I know enough about it, and I certainly appreciate how amazing the world is. What are you talking about Star Trek was ahead of your time? It came out in 1966. I watched it as a kid. How old is Patton Oswalt? He's 57. Also born in 1969. What are you talking about? It was ahead of your time. It was out before this guy. Ugh. I think we better play some commercials so I can calm down. Be right back. I am still worked up. I went and pulled the bit. This is from Patton Oswalt. This bit is, at midnight, I will kill George Lucas with a shovel. The premise here is Patton has a time machine, and he goes back to 1993 and runs into George Lucas on the street, and George starts describing the prequels. Now, I will point out to you, Star Trek Strange New Worlds is a prequel to Star Trek. So everything Patton says here applies to Doug the effing Vulcan. Some edits here for language, but here's Patton Oswalt being mad about a prequel.
And the first thing I thought of doing, if I actually had a time machine, is I would go back to around 1993 or 94 and kill George Lucas with a shovel. That was the first thing that came to my mind. And stop him from making the prequels. That's how I would try to save history. I mean, I don't even know how I would have reacted if I just run into him on the street, like going, "Oh my God, you're George Lucas, dude." Look, I don't want to bother you and nerd out, but like, Star Wars is one of my favorite movies, and I just want to thank you, man. Just thanks for all that. It's so great. You like Star Wars? I got some good news. I'm working on the 3 prequels, the first 3 chapters. Oh, really? You're going to do finally. Oh my God, that's awesome, dude. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Well, hey, you say you're a Star Wars fan. Do you like Darth Vader? I love Darth Vader, dude. The helmet and the cape with the sword. That's great, man. Is he in the first movie? Yeah, in the first movie, you get to see him as a little kid. Is he like a little Damien Omen kid, like evil and killing people with his mind? No, he's just like this little kid, and then he gets taken away from his mom, and he's very sad.
You know what's scary? I'm not even doing a bit. I'm actually this upset. Okay, what else do I have for you? Are you a new listener? This is the show. Francisco Ramos has a new special out today. It is called Still Learning. I don't believe Ramos appears in any episodes of Star Trek. Francisco Ramos, Still Learning on TVOD via Comedy Dynamics, out today. Filmed in New York City, Still Learning dives into the lessons that don't come with instructions, marriage therapy, eating with other people, and even learning how to dance in the U.S., from cultural misunderstandings to relationship realizations. The special explores how we're all still learning, especially when we think we've got it figured out. And the Toronto Guardian does their wonderful series Tragedy Plus Time, where they speak to local comedians. One of them is Spencer Glassman. Favorite comedian growing up, John Mulaney. New in Town was probably the first special I memorized. I also love the SNL Weekend Update character Stefan, which John Mulaney co-wrote. Pre-show ritual, gym, tan, laundry, and matcha. I don't drink alcohol or carbonated beverages, so the only way to get loose or lock in is with sugar and breathing exercises. I'm kind of avoidant, so unless it's a showcase or a particularly important set, I don't decide what I'm going to say until an hour before. Then right before the show starts, I repeat the mantra, I love the audience. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so excited I get to do what I love in front of these people. If they don't laugh, I will not turn on them and start frantically repeating, "So you guys hate this, huh?" Favorite bit that he's written? I have a joke about Steve Jobs, super timely, I know, where I basically say that people made such a big deal about how he wore the same thing every day to maximize productivity, but what was he wearing before that was so distracting? That's a good joke. And that is your comedy news for today. Go watch some proper Star Trek. Go watch Star Trek TOS, The Doomsday Machine. Go watch that. Go watch William Wyndham turn in the best performance in the entire Star Trek series, even better than Sir Patrick Stewart. William Wyndham as Commodore Decker. Go watch that. And don't forget, you can comment. We've got the comments on Spotify, and there's the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. You can write things like, this show is terrible. This guy thinks he's funny. All he does is rant about Star Trek. I hate this show. You could post that, but it will help the Spotify algorithm, and you'll only be helping me. Another way you're going to help me is by sharing the show, right? We're doing that in June. Pretty soon, I'm going to be demanding proof. You're going to have to send in a picture of how you shared the show, because that's part of the price to get in this month. You're sharing the show. It's June Share the Show month. All right. Follow the show on Spotify. Turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Catch you tomorrow.